Okay, we're going to talk about the second brain. This is actually one of my favorite classes that we have. And the reason is one of my favorites because it's a field that it's actually blooming. So every day there's new research, new articles that are pretty exciting. I mean, at the end it's the same bottom line, but things are very interesting to see the information. Okay? It's the enteric system, which is what it's your gut, your whole digestive tract. It has more nervous connections, or has the same amount of nervous connections that your central nervous system. So, yeah, second brain. Yeah, your gut. So basically, your gut has a lot of nerve endings, just like your central nervous system. What that means is that, actually, it means that it's a brain on its own. It's actually, it could be independent from your central nervous system, or your brain, but it's connected through the vagus nerve. We talked about the vagus nerve already. And if you have emotions, this gut area gets affected. You know, you got to stand up and speak in front of a public, and you don't know the people that you're going to talk to, and that's not what you typically do every day. You know, you get butterflies here. For me, it just sends me to the bathroom every time I have to do it. So that's just a cleaning mechanism. It's a flush. And also, if you have problems in this area, it's going to affect how your brain behaves. So we're going to look into that and how that's possible. But it's something really, really intriguing, because if we understood this more, we could see why our behaviors are some ways, and we could see different issues in our life. Science is saying now that, you know, there's an influence between your gut and your moods and your well-being. And it is true. Now, I'm going to point out some things that to show you that how important this is. For example, in this area of the gut, you produce 95% of all the serotonin that your body produces. It's just 95%. It's here. It's called the happy hormone. And you know, when you have good levels of serotonin, your body actually works very, very well. You feel good. You don't have anxiety. You know, you don't have, you know, maybe depression. It's not a factor in your life. You have these medicines that they have, these SSRIs, serotonin selective reuptake inhibitors, which allows you to have more serotonin in your body. These things, 95% are produced in your gut. So, and the way that that's produced to your brain, it's through amino acids called tryptophan. And who controls that uptake of tryptophan to the brain is actually your gut. So it is very depending on your well-being and your moods. You know, some people use marijuana nowadays. It's a pretty common drug, and it's actually being pushed as something to be free. Everybody, you know, it should be legal. And many states are doing this. And, you know, it could be addictive. And what it does is actually just brings the levels of serotonin up, and the person feels like chill, you know, yeah, man, just relax, everything is chill. You don't never see somebody that is using marijuana really hyped. It's typically, you know, chill out, because serotonin just calms you down, it makes you happy, it makes you, you know, relax. The problem with that is that when the levels come down to almost normal levels, the person feels the anxiety that is not feeling good. So it needs to go back to those high levels with it. That's why it kind of becomes addictive. So that's something that it's very important to keep in mind. You probably just need to actually heal your gut and get your levels well, to fix things like anxiety and depression. I have seen most of the people that have depression or anxiety, their gut is not healthy, and that's something that I think I've seen multiple times. So when you see somebody that is really fighting depression and anxiety, you could easily point to a gut issue that if they fix this, they can deal. I'm not saying it's a solution to all the problems, but it actually, there's a correlation there. To the point that they have done experiments and are doing experiments how your gut is affecting how you see life and how your perspective and things like that. Also, it produces 50% of dopamine. Dopamine, it's a hormone, neurotransmitter in your brain. And when I say neurotransmitters, what it means is, your neurons, which are your cells from your nervous system, they're like the hardware, and the software of the computer will be the neurotransmitters. They are the ones that do this function of like a software. Now, 50% of it is produced in your gut area. 50%. That's a lot. And it relates to movement, the body movements, cell movement, but also your brain needs this to make it have drive. You need dopamine to have a drive, to have purpose in life, Sometimes you see a person with low dopamine being like, I want to stay in bed. I don't want to do anything. I don't feel like doing anything. Now you take them out of bed and you convince them to go out, and they are happy doing what you were proposing. But at some point in time, since they have low dopamine levels, they're like, I don't want to do it. I'm just, you think they're lazy, right? That's what they are, but it's not. They have issues with this, and that's low levels of dopamine. Okay. Now, the alkaloids like nicotine, cocaine, heroin, and those, caffeine, they tend to bring the levels of dopamine high. So do things like gambling and pornography. So these things tend to bring the levels of dopamine high, but again, those are not solution to the problem. But what happens is that you get a low and you feel, like, oh, I need something to boost me up. Okay? Now, one important factor is that 80% of your immune system is actually in your gut. 80%. So wonder, why would God put such an imbalance in the body to put 80% of your immune system right in your gut? You think about it. It's all here. Most of your immune system, it's here. What's the whole point behind it? I believe that you see a child, crawling to the floor, he's still not able to walk, and he sees something, and he picks it up, looks at it, and what is he going to do? Put it in the mouth. That's how he tests things out. I don't know. It's not like he's hungry. He just was fed, but that's kind of a natural behavior. It's just pick it up, put it in the mouth. Now, God knew this, and He designed us to have, the way that things should go into your body is through the gut. So, you have to have your police systems, your soldiers alert, trying to see what's coming in to kind of deal with it. So that's why 80% of your immune system is there, and this is very important. Okay. You're going to find problems with autoimmunity. I have Hashimoto, or I have RA, rheumatoid arthritis, or I have this, all these immune diseases, Crohn's and those, and you're going to find out that the gut is not healthy. In all these autoimmune diseases, the gut is not healthy. That's something that, I'm just giving you some pointers here because you're going to face these things all the time. You have, I got lupus, or I have fibromyalgia, I have, Hashimoto. Just you look into these, you listen to these things, you say, you know what? You need to fix your gut. Start there. Start with a simple thing. Start fixing your gut. And then let's see what happens. And you'll see that things start changing for these. Now, there's so many other things, but these are the simple things, right? If your immune system has problems, then, or you have an immune problem, you have a viral or a bacterial problem. You go rushing to the doctor and all these things to give you chemicals that sometimes they don't do good for you. Maybe they do, they protect life sometimes, but maybe if you have an immune problem that you're always sick and not feeling well, maybe you need to point here. Let's try to fix this. Do you see the repercussions where we're going with this? It's actually something very important. It's very simple once you know. It's like, it makes sense now. Okay, now, as part of your digestive tract, and I'm saying digestive tract from the mouth all the way to the rectum, it's mostly the same. There's some specifications in different areas, but it's mostly the same type of cells. There is actually a flora. It's called a microbiota, and basically what it is just bacteria. And you have bacteria in your mouth. Remember when the teachers, when you were young, if you kiss in your mouth with another person, you're transmitting a lot of bacteria. Yeah, it's true. Kissing in the mouth to mouth, causes a lot of bacteria transmission. I'm not sure if that's bad or good. People are afraid of bacteria, but I'm not afraid of bacteria. I think bacteria are good. You have 10 bacteria for every cell you have. So who wins? You have 10-to-1 ratio. So if you have 100 trillion cells, say 60 to 100 trillion cells, how many bacteria you have? You have 10 times that. It's amazing. Basically, your DNA is more bacteria than human being. And these bacteria that you have, it's dictated mainly by your lifestyle practices. For example, if you live in Greece, they actually take the bacteria information, or just take the culture of bacteria from the gut from people in Greece, and it's different from the people in America because they are fed differently, they have a different environment. Now, if somebody from Greece would come to the United States, their flora or the microbiota starts changing to whatever the environment is. I had a coworker that he was, he was apprehensive of God. He didn't believe in God. And when he had a child, he says, the first thing he told me, he says, you know what? I don't know. If you believe in God, it's crazy because, the way the baby comes out is disgusting. It's really disgusting. You know what? I saw how my baby came out, and when the baby comes from the birth canal, his mouth, it's pointing to the anus of the mother. It is yucky because it's actually, the birth canal expand and it's almost touching the anus. I mean, it's just really disgusting. And if you ever seen a child being born, I have, my 2 daughters, they come out like this, right? And their head come out first. And they're there for a couple, seconds, And then somehow the doctor is able to take out the arm and whoop, it flips up and takes it out. But in that period where that baby's head is right there in the anus of the mother, it's very critical. So he says, this is disgusting. How could God think of these things? I didn't have an answer then, but now I see the beauty of it. It's amazing beautiful, because when the body is there, it's actually seeding its gut flora. So it's seeding what's inside, that it's going to be its immune system for his life. So a baby that is born in C-section, now they know this, and they're actually making adjustments for mothers that have C-section, because their baby's immune system is not as strong as somebody that is born naturally, right? Not that C-sections are bad or good, it's just it's a different thing. You do have to make sure that you see the gut flora of that child, okay? So so this is very important. I was reading of a study that was done, and they had I think it was 1,000 ladies that came to this study, and 5% of the group were missing a specific bacteria in their flora. 5% didn't have it. So all of them that were doing this, all in this test, what they did, they actually put some functional testing devices or scanners, functional scanners, where they see how the brain behaves with different input, different stimuli. And what they were doing is they put them here and they present images to them. And these images were disturbing images, very disturbing. And what happens is that these women that got these disturbing images, they all got really upset, really nervous, really anxious about the images they saw. And it showed in their brain. So the ones the 5% that were missing this specific bacteria, they could not recover at a certain amount of time from the impact of this imagery. So the 95%, after some time, they just calmed down and everything was fine. But 5% weren't able to control themselves for a longer period of time. It's amazing that, where does it go from here? It's a preliminary story, but where does it go from here? It's amazing. And here in your gut, you detect diabetes, you detect autoimmune diseases, you detect mental illnesses. They're all related to your gut. So we should know more about how to maintain this gut flora. I was looking to a test, and I've been trying. This man was giving his testimony about allergies, food allergies, and he was finding out what was he allergic to according to a tape. So what he did, and there's studies on this. That's why he decided to do this. He said, he would eat something, and he would at night put a tape in his mouth. Put a tape in his mouth at night, a surgical tape. Something you could open your mouth, right? It's not something that you could, no, it's something that you could open your mouth. And if you needed to. So he would put a tape, and when he ate something, if his mouth appeared to be open, he found that was causing the allergy. So he found out, for example, wine. He would take a glass of wine at night, and every time he put a tape and he had a glass of wine, the tape opened up. But when he didn't have it, it was, and then some other items that he was allergic that he didn't know. He went and tested himself, and it was true. He was allergic to these things. So this is pretty interesting. Now, the whole article was the whole research is about when you sleep with your mouth open like this, what happens is that it dries out your mouth, and there's bacteria here that are impacted when you do that. And these bacteria are very important to the downstream process of digestion and many other things. So typically we should consider being a closed mouth breather. We should breathe from our nose most of the day. Because if you breathe through your mouth open through the day, you're going to open your mouth at night and it's going to dry this up, okay? So if you want to, I have tape. I have tried it. Many people that snore, it kind of helps them a little bit. If you snore, put a tape in your mouth and it shuts it off. And I did it. I did it with Lily and me, and tried to figure out who was this one snoring. And actually, snoring went away. You know, we just slept actually even better. So I got these specific ones that actually have the mouth, your mouth, and they have a little hole here just in case. But they're really nice. They're just curiosity, right?
Isn't it sleep apnea?
No. Sleep apnea, it's a different thing. It's a. I didn't know that. I think for sleep apnea, I mean, there's a structural, sometimes it's structural, or sometimes, you know, overweight will cause it. So now, this is where it gets interesting for me. Your gut has cells, and it have these cells, and these cells are called the epithelial cells. And they are the ones that allow food to go in when it's digested into your bloodstream. So they're a barrier. You have this ball of food, and the nutrients need to go to the blood so that the blood can distribute the nutrients. So there's this wall here of epithelial cells. And as you're going to see later in another slide, you see these lines here? They're very tight together, and they're tight by proteins. Now, here's where I'm amazed by this. There's a mucous lining, which is like a saliva, on top of these cells. Okay? Now, this mucous lining is the house of bacteria, the bacteria that you have in your flora. Now, if I ask you a question, let's make a parenthesis. Does anybody knows what food has vitamin A? Carrots, okay. Any other food that you know that has vitamin A? Celery, might. Almonds, I think nah. Spinach, yes, spinach does have. But all these orangey type of like sweet potatoes, and you see them, but they actually none of those have actually vitamin A. You won't find vitamin A like that. Okay, not in the plant kingdom. You don't find vitamin A. What you find is something called beta carotene, and beta carotene, it's a relative of vitamin A. But then you have these bacteria here in your gut that they eat beta carotene and poop out vitamin A, which you need. So is vitamin K and B complex vitamins. These vitamins, basically, most of them are produced by these bacteria here. Sometimes we have deficiency of vitamins, and it's because our flora, it's actually not working. They are actually part of our system, and they have functions that they produce these things. They produce serotonin. They produce these things that we need. So they're very important. So, again, I'm going to repeat this again. You have these walls of cells tied together, and on top of that, there is a mucous lining where is for housing the bacteria that is very important for our health. Now, this mucous lining is produced by these cells. These cells produce these mucous lining. So, that's why I believe that God is the creator, because who came first, your cell or the bacteria that helps you out? So, now, if you don't have this mucous lining, bacteria don't have a house, and you won't have enough good bacteria. You have a bacteria overgrowth that is the wrong bacteria. You have good bacteria, bad bacteria. They're all good because God created them, but they have a different function. One is when you're dying and it's, you're sick and dying. The other one's when you're healthy. So you don't want the bacteria that when you're sick and are dying are overpopulating the ones when you're healthy, because it would trigger you to go sick and dying faster than you need to. You follow that, right? Okay, so this mucous lining is produced by the cells. Okay, these cells produce mucous lining. Now, here's where it gets very interesting. Check this out. When you eat a specific nutrient, these bacteria eat the nutrient that you're eating. And when they have that specific nutrient, they actually produce a chemical or a nutrient that feeds these cells. And when the cells have that nutrient that came out of the bacteria, they produce the mucous lining, or the housing for the bacteria. Amazing. So it's all correlated. If you don't eat, and the nutrient is fiber, okay, cellulose, fiber. If you don't eat a lot of vegetables in your diet, these bacteria do not have the nutrient or the fiber to produce things like butyrate or different short-chain fatty acids that these cells need to produce the mucous lining or the housing for the bacteria. Do you follow what I just said? Do you understood what I said? Yes?
Would it help in, getting your immune system in check so that things don't go wild?
So does it help to check your immune system?
No, does it help to put your immune system in place so that if you have an autoimmune disease?
So improve your immune system, you're saying. Does it help to improve your immune system?
And sort of negate if someone has autoimmune disease.
So that you could auto-negate autoimmune diseases. Well, it would help to put your gut flora in place, make it healthy, and then it will take care of that. I'll show you in a minute here. But so this mucous lining is depending on you, on your intake of fiber. If you don't eat your veggies, then this mucous lining is not going to be very readily available. So when you don't have this mucous lining, your bacteria population dwindles. You see how important it is to eat vegetables now? Now, when you have this problem that this mucous lining is depleted and the bacteria, you're going to start having weaker epithelial cells and inflamed epithelial cells. So now there's going to be a opening. These structures, they're not as tight together, so they're not as strong, so they start dividing a little bit. So now these cells were responsible on being a gate to the food that was coming into the blood, right? So nothing will go to the blood. Here's the blood. Nothing will pass through that is not completely digested. So now there's openings, and now things that might not be completely digested might go into the bloodstream. And that's a problem because your blood does not have a digestive process. It doesn't know how to digest a protein, for example. So when you see a protein, well, let me show you. Let me write something on the wall, on the board. And let's say this is a protein. You know what this protein is? This is a cell. A cell looks like just a protein. Now, a bacteria will look just the same. A virus could just look the same. So when something that has a protein that is not digested goes through here, what do you think your immune system is going to do? It's going to try to get rid of it. It's a protein, but it could be a virus, it could be a bacteria. Who knows what it is? It should not be there that way. You see, in your blood system, you should have amino acids, not complete proteins. And remember, this is a protein, and this protein is built of amino acids. Okay? So you know what a protein is. It's just a bunch of amino acids combined together and it forms a protein. Do you understand that? That's simple enough. Where a protein could be just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different amino acids combined together. And it forms a protein. It's a building block. In other words, this building is a protein. The blocks that build this building are amino acids. Now, what the blood is looking for is amino acids, not protein. Because the cells don't need protein, they need amino acids. Okay? The cell, they're too small to get a whole protein. You got it? Trying to make this simple because it might be new to use. So, when you have this problem of not eating enough proteins, and also on top of that, you eat inflammatory products for these cells, you're going to have a leakage of nutrients or proteins and bacteria into your blood. So it's going to create a problem. It's going to create something called inflammation. And I'm going to draw this. Bear with me here. I'm going to draw it quickly for you. Okay, here it is. So you have, and this is the same drawing. I'm just going to give you, I'm drawing it for a reason. But I can manipulate it better with my drawing. So here is your blood. Okay? Here's your blood. And here's the epithelial cells, the cells of your gut. Here's the mucous lining. Here's bacteria. We're going to call it flora. Okay? Now, in the blood, I said that in this area you have how much of your immune system? Remember? 80%. That's right, 80%. So you have 80% of your immune system right here. You see these are your immune cells. I'm putting it like this. So they're on alert. So you stop eating vegetables because you don't like them. Raw vegetables. I don't like salads, so I'm not going to eat them. I don't like I just like, things that are meat and flowers and these things, right? You don't really have a balanced diet with a lot of vegetables. So what do you expect to happen? That the mucus lining dwindles, gets very short. And the other thing you expect is that the bacteria also gets very short. Okay? So you're expecting that these things are happening. Now, I told you that the nutrition of these cells is depending on this bacteria. So now they're not tied together, they're open together. Okay? What's going to happen now is that a bacteria or something is going to, a protein is going to go into your blood. It's going to cause this immune system to react. And you know how the immune system reacts? Start screaming. That screaming is actually a chemical. It's called cytokines or different chemicals. Immune reaction. This chemical, this whistle, the basic thing it's doing is the following. It's calling more of the immune cells to come into the area. So now, for example, you eat cheese or milk. Let's say cheese, for example. Now, cheese, for digestion of the protein of cheese, you need an enzyme called renin, which you stop the production of that enzyme at age 2. See, you should be weaned at age 2. So you stop the production of renin, okay? You don't produce it anymore unless you're from Norway. But everybody else doesn't produce it, okay? So now you don't produce renin. You don't have an ability to digest this protein. And then you don't like your veggies either. Two combinations that are not good for you, okay? What's going to happen is that you're going to have this casein, this protein. To make it short, let's put it C, which is the cheese protein. Call it cheese protein. So now it's coming in, and what do you think is going to happen? Inflammation. It's going to start happening. Your body is going to create inflammation for the reason because inflammation is the call to other immune cells to come to deal with this problem. Do you see what's happening? You're eating these every time. Now, what typically happens is, there could be an autoimmune problem. You know what autoimmune problem? Well, you have something called the pancreas. And the pancreas have some cells called the beta cells. So pancreas, beta cells. And you know what their function is? Anybody knows? Yes, to produce insulin. They produce insulin. But it happens that these beta cells look exactly like the cheese cells, the casein. They're the same, they look alike. You cannot compare, you can say, okay, they look alike. So your immune system creates a antibody, a chemical, to destroy this thing. But what's going to happen? The immune system is in your blood. So how do you produce insulin now? That's why people call type 1 diabetes, right? So You could see the pattern. I mean, I'm not saying because you don't eat veggies this is going to happen, but there's very close correlations here, okay? Now, there's other nutrients that would cause this. There are proteins that are so complex that they cannot get digested and they will fall through the cracks and cause some problems of immunity. It would get your immune system alert to something that should not be alerted for. Do you follow what I'm getting at? This is extremely important. Extremely important. Yes, exactly right. Now, you have another component, which is your brain. And here where it gets interesting. You got a component where it's your brain. I'm gonna erase this so I can show you your brain. Your brain has a this is a swollen brain. Hold on. Let me just not put that in there. I don't know. I don't know how to draw a brain, but it just imagine this is the brain, Mr. Brain. Okay, Mr. Brain. So the brain also has immune cells floating around it. They have immune cells there. Its headquarters is a very important organ. It needs to be taken care of. And there's a barrier here that protects, hey, this is a wall. We're protecting the brain from anything that happens. But then you're eating your cheese pizza, right? And you don't eat any vegetables. And you have this swollen. And what's going to happen? When you eat that cheese pizza, your immune system is going to react. And it's going to go calling everybody else. Well, these chemicals make it from the blood to the brain, and you know what happened? The brain immune cells are going to do the same. I don't know what's happening, but we have been compromised. I better just take care of things. Let me call immune system. So now you have this call. It's inflammation. So now you have a chronic inflammation in your brain. Why do you have that chronic inflammation in your brain? Because you have been eating the wrong things and causing the wrong problems to happen, and it's causing inflammation in the brain every time you eat these things. Now, I have anxiety and depression, and I don't know what to do with it. And I go here, take a pill to kick this up, but I don't change this problem. So every time I eat, I get inflammation. And it's, it is logically proven that depression is not a problem of deficiency of nutrients or chemicals, because they give these chemicals to the people, they stabilize for a little bit, and they go back again to their own problem. They never fix the problem. So it's not a chemical problem. You would say if it's a deficiency of chemicals, then you just take those chemicals and you'll be fine. But they're not fixing the problem that starts here. You got to fix this problem. Okay? Then anxiety and depression and all these things start moving to the right place. At least give that a chance, okay? You could just try it out. You just give it a chance. Uh-huh. We're going to talk about that in a minute here, how long it takes to fix that. Now, this is how I see it in the blood. This is how it looks. You see the platelet, and you see this polymerized protein around it. Now, I told you about the tight junctures. And these tight junctures, you could see, they're made out of proteins. Occludins and claudins, these proteins bind these cells very tight. It's like, they're just, I don't want you to go and you don't want me to go. They're really tight. But there are inflammatory food that we eat or things that cause these things to break apart. Let me show you what they are. You want them together. You want them tight, because if they're not tight, you're going to have things leaking through to the blood that are not digested, and it's not good. Okay? So now, which things could do? Well, gliadin. Gliadin it's actually a protein it goes with gluten. It's a wheat protein, gliadin. No matter who has or not has, if you eat wheat, if you eat wheat products, you're going to have this problem. If you're insensitive or not sensitive to gluten, it doesn't really matter. It is something that happens all the time. You produce sonulin, and sonulin, think of it as a scissors. They cut through these things. Now, the difference with somebody that is intolerant to wheat and somebody that is tolerant to it, that it doesn't cause a problem, is that these proteins, even though they get cut through, they're able to restore quickly enough. And somebody that is intolerant, they don't have that ability. It just stays open. Okay? So you're always going to produce sonulin with gliadin. Okay? Milk. Now, the milk that I'm talking about is milk that has a protein structure called casein A1. And these are milking cows, and they are all over the Americas and Europe. They're the same cows, okay, the same type of cows. Now, in Africa and in India, they have cows that have casein A2. They're different structure. But this casein A1, they produce an inflammatory agent called interleukin-4. So it will cause this problem all the time. Yes?
So the cow milk in India doesn't cause issues?
No. Wait a second. Ooh. You don't have renin. I wrote it. You don't have renin, so you cannot get rid of the protein structure. You cannot unravel it or make it an amino acid. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't cause issue. What it means is that it doesn't produce this inflammatory agent. So when you eat any protein or dairy product from the Americas and Europe, which are milking cows, what's going to happen is that not only you can unravel the protein, but you also produce an inflammatory agent. That
the inflammatory agent is the only difference.
Is the only difference. But you don't have the ability to digest that protein anyways. Okay? So if you don't eat your veggies, no matter what, that protein is going to go through the blood anyways. Okay? Oils. When you use a lot of oils, you produce something called prostaglandin. And it's also an inflammatory, it's inflammatory to your gut. Okay? To your gut cells. No, it doesn't matter what oil. Oils. You produce prostaglandin. Fructose in high amounts also does the same thing. Okay, creates inflammation there too. Fructose in high amounts. Where do you find fructose in high amounts? Fructose. No, fruits have a lot of fructose, but they're with fiber, right? Now, if you take the fiber out, that's a different story. But with fiber, it's not a problem. It's in most processed foods, sodas, these type of things. Very inflammatory. And also on glyphosate. Anybody knows what glyphosate is? Roundup. Roundup is a herbicide that they put to kill, weeds, basically. And they put it if you don't want to have weeds in the area, it could be your garden or whatever, you put Roundup. Glyphosate. It's a chemical that they put to kill plants. Okay, weeds, most likely. So I don't eat that. I don't have contact with that. Why would it be a problem? Well, it's created by Monsanto, by the way. Monsanto is the owner of the founder of glyphosate, and now it's owned by Baxter. But here's the problem. Glyphosate even though you don't eat it directly, you eat it through the food you eat now. This is organic food. Just to give you, only organic food is here. Organic grains, talking wheat, barley, all these organic spelt, all these organic grains, they tend to have, they started to find out, this is a study, this was done in Canada, okay? So I don't know if Canada has a little bit of different rules than here. I think Canada tends to be a little bit stricter than the United States, okay, on laws. But here it's like, you know, the grains, wheat, you know, organic. They have 30 to 60 micrograms per kilogram of glyphosate in the grains itself. Now, I'm going to erase this. I'm going to show you something that 60 micrograms, 60 micrograms, it's inflammatory to your gut, 60 micrograms. So if I convert this to milligrams, gotta divide it by 1,000, right? Milligrams per milligram. So it would be 0.006 milligrams. So this is what if my math is right, this is what it ended up to be, okay? Just that amount, it's inflammatory to your gut. Now, look, organic lentils. Organic lentils have 3.75 milligrams. So that would be end up to 3,750 micrograms of glyphosate in an organic lentil. So who eats organic lentils? Well, everybody does here. Especially if you're Indian, you're going to eat all those organic lentils. That's organic. If you don't eat them organic, conventionals, forget it. It's just to the roof. Okay? To the roof. Now, flaxseed, flax, organic flax, it's 60 micrograms. 60 micrograms, organic flax. Non-GMO soybeans. These are organic soybeans that are not sprayed or anything. They have from 3 to almost 5,700 milligrams of glyphosate. So no matter what, we're getting the glyphosate. So if you're not getting the gliadin from the wheat, if you're not getting it from the milk, or the cheese or milk, or if you're not getting it from the oil or the fructose from processed food, you're getting it through these. You cannot escape this problem. It's a big problem. It doesn't matter where it's organic. Wait, how could it be that it's organic and it has these chemicals in it? You're supposed to not to have chemicals when it's organic, right? That's what I think. Well, I started talking to the farmers and we talked to the professor of farming here in the school that it's right here. And, well, it's been allowed that you can have one spray of glyphosate, one spray for the whole season, one per season, right? Like what? Why would you want to do that? Oh, there's an interesting fact about plants. Plants, when they're here, right? And the product matures at a different rate. You see, you go to pick figs, right? For example, in Greece, you go to pick figs, and you pick one fig that it's ripe, but there's others that are green in the tree. That's all plants do that same thing. They're not all at the same mature at the same time. Okay. The other thing is that when a plant, you try to kill it, you kill it with something. basically what it does, it tries to produce as much produce as it can. So if it had 3 seeds and you try to kill it, it'll push itself to produce 4. Produce more. You know? 8 is more than 6. So that's good. So now, since they've been allowed to do this one time, what is called the browning process, they have these airplanes that go spray the field, and when they spray the field, they kill the plant. And what it does, it allows the plant to produce a little bit more, and you know what? It all matures or dry up in the plant. So now, you see close to us there's a mill, right? A grain mill, and they're running out of business. They're running these people out of business. They told us we were looking for buying the land in front to garden, and they said, you know what, we're losing money. Nobody's using us anymore. Yeah, why would you want to use them? Because you got to spend money on this mill to dry the grain so that all is mature before you send them out. Now you don't just need to do that. It's dry, you collect it and put it in the trucks. So it saves money all around and it produces more yield. So it's a win-win situation. And it's just one time. Nobody says that one time is bad for you. Has not been proven until recently that Monsanto has a $250 million lawsuit that it lost, and it has another $80 million because people were eating oatmeal. We're crying out loud, oatmeal. Falls in the non-organic grains here. See, non-GMO, 70 to 90 micrograms. So here's a problem. We're getting attacked left and right. And then you don't eat your veggies, what do you expect? So look what 60 micrograms look like. This is 10-cent look. It's visible to you. It's not a small amount. So now, symptoms of a bad flora could manifest in this, like this. Bloating. Oh, I feel bloated all the time. Gas. I'm gassy. Abnormal bowel movements. So I got constipated or diarrhea. Systemic inflammation. So you have inflammation all over the place. It's just systemic pains and it manifests there. Food sensitivity. You eat something and you have these allergies to food. Depression, anxiety, weak immune system function, high cholesterol, and I didn't even talk about cholesterol and how this impacts cholesterol, by the way. That's another topic. Now, step to take to fix it. Okay, you need it? Take a picture? Okay. Step that you need to fix it. So these are things that, that you might find as symptoms of a problem right here in your gut, right? Now, I'm going to show you some tips, give you some tips to fix it. Somebody says, oh, okay, first increase the fiber intake. That's a given. Start eating your veggies, your salads. You know, at least do it in the morning like we teach you. Eliminate inflammatory foods like gluten or gliadin, dairy, oils, processed carbohydrates. Now, if you have this problem, I would say I would address it. Start there and see if you see a change, okay? Then eat as much fresh organic produce as possible. Try to find as much organic as you can, okay? At least the 12, the dirty dozen. You know, you're going to go to the class this afternoon, figure out what that dozen is and how to replace it. Ask questions. Take a probiotic drink to increase your population. We're going to look at kefir. We're going to go in a couple minutes to the next kitchen to see the process of how you do kefir. Learn to manage stress. This is very important because if you have stress, you're going to have inflammation. You got to figure out how to manage it, okay? And avoid the use of excessive antibiotics. If you don't need antibiotics, don't use them, okay? I feel bad. No, use them when you need them. If you go to PubMed, I was reading for some issue, and it said there that your body is designed to take. It can support, it can handle 2 sessions of antibiotics in your lifetime before it becomes a problem, a real problem in your life that you just can't deal with, something more critical, okay? So 2 sessions of antibiotics per life. So take that wisely. Don't take it, oh, I got a problem, now give me antibiotic. You know, you just got to be wise. Figure out a way, another way. Now, kefir. We promote water kefir because it's a probiotic drink. There was this lady here from Andrews University. We gave her kefir 3 years ago when she came. No, 2 years ago when she came. And she actually, it's a lab technician, and that's what she was studying for. And last year she had a project, a last year project before she graduated, and I was giving this class. She returned. So she came 2 years ago, and then she said she started the process because she came like for 1 week and a half, but she wanted the whole program. So she came last year to the whole program. And while we were doing this process, she told me, I think we were in a break, and she said, you know what? I got to tell you this. Remember your kefir we got from here last year? Well, we were trying to figure out what project to do, and we started looking at a project on probiotics. And I said, why don't we test the kefir that I have? And she tested, and she says, could you believe this? From all the probiotics in the market, the only thing that we saw that worked was the kefir that I got from getting here. It's like, whoa, this is good stuff. I mean, I love that. She didn't say it for everyone, but she told me to. It's like, wow. And I said, you have to tell the group that. It's great stuff. So these things, the good thing about this kefir is that once you have it once, it would have it forever. As long as you take care for it, you never have to buy this thing again. It's yours forever. It reproduce, and you have to share with everyone. That's a good thing. Helps you clean the blood, cleans your digestive tract, reduce hypertension, arthritis, burn fat, and alkaline, has an alkaline effect, even though it's acid. It's pretty cool stuff, okay? This is how it will look, and we're going to go see it in a minute, okay? Anybody has questions up to here? Yes. Yeah, you have to be careful with organic. You have to know your farmers. Okay? Yes, they are people there. Yeah, there's organic farmers. There's organic farmers. Well, they typically don't have glyphosate. We're just concentrating on glyphosate. Maybe those chemicals also do problems in your gut. Glyphosate is mostly for herbicide, like for example the corn and things like that. They would put glyphosate, soy, and any other grains that you saw here. Okay?